I set myself a personal goal to finish Contra without dying and without using any power-ups, obviously no cheat code. So no 30 lives. I mean, what good would that be if I'm not gonna die at all anyway? And I've done it before, but I didn't get to record it. And I told TheReNesance about it. He's got a fairly new YouTube channel with lots of sort of fringe NES games that he plays through, and he's really good at, well, all of them. And so I've discovered him on Instagram, and he told me he was going to do this, same thing that I've done. And I told him I didn't get to record it, and he said you could always try again. I thought, yeah, I could. But it wasn't until I actually saw him do it and I got jealous. And so here I go again. And it took me a lot of tries. And it's, you know, I have the skill. The skill's not an issue. I've got the dexterity, I've got the 30 years of experience. But my problem is, my biggest weakness is I have a really hard time trying to not show off. Like, I try to make everything look as effortless as I'm able to. I don't know why. It's like my instinct. I can't control myself. This time I think I really did after I got past the first 4 stages, and that's where my sticking point was. You'll see when I get to the 4th stage boss. It's the hardest boss in the game, in my opinion, and it's especially hard with the regular unmodified weapon. If you had a spread gun, I mean, really, you can wipe out anything with a spread gun. It makes the game a cakewalk. But like on this boss, normally I don't even fight it this way. I'll take my time and just take out the right side, and then the left side, and then the middle. And you can see this time I kind of jumped all around. And it's just because it looks boring to sit there and wait for those things to open up. And this looks like a lot more activity, but really I'm not destroying it any faster. And on this run, I feel like I actually had some fairly bad luck with most of my random occurrences. One of the really great things about NES Contra is that, unlike games like Battletoads, where you can seriously memorize every little part of the game and eventually just do it like a robot, there's always a high degree of randomness in Contra. It's not, I mean, technically not exactly random, but it's effectively random from a human point of view. And so this game can always throw you a curveball at any given moment, no matter how much experience you have or how many times you've memorized everything, because most of the things are fixed, most of the enemy placements, but there's also areas where enemies are supposed to be generated at what seems like a random interval. And so it keeps you on your toes, no matter what. So, I mean, you'll see on my first stage, you can see it looks like, it starts off, it almost looks like a tool-assisted speed run or something, because I'm picking off the first few enemies before they even appear on screen, just because I know where they're going to be or where there's a likelihood. And then I start making little mistakes here and there, so it's obvious that it's just regular old human imperfection. So I love that about Contra, that you can't just memorize it. It's always a twitch game. So anyway, I was saying I had some pretty bad luck, I think, throughout this entire run. In the first stage, I had some stuff happen that was kind of... It just makes things a little bit more dull, even. There weren't nearly as many enemies as I like to see on the bridges and stuff like that. But the real problem was things like this upcoming boss. You can run the game 10 times in a row and you could have a really easy time. Well, I mean relatively easy, because his shots, the boss's shots, will come from positions where it's not too hard to shoot them. It's when they come from the sides, the far left and right, that gets to be difficult. And then when you get too many shots that pile up at once, well, I guess I'll wait and let you see. And in the meantime, I think this is one of the parts where I had a... Oh no, I think it's the next room. I had a close call, and I really thought the run was over. It's those rolling pins on the floor. Usually they're not a problem for me, but I can goof up like nobody's business. Right here. See, that didn't even look like that should be survivable. That's another problem, is trying to avoid the weapons that I accidentally hit sometimes. And that was the fireball, the worst one of them all, I think. Even if I was using power-ups, I would still not want to get that one. And there's the machine gun trying to get me too. That would have ended the run just as well as dying. I just discovered this, that I can stand in this nice spot here, and none of these guys can hit me. So that's my new pro strat for this part. Normally those guys can be a pain with a pea shooter, and I'm so used to doing it with the spread that... Well, here's the boss that was giving me all the trouble. See, he fires two at once almost, and then he starts firing them from the edges. So it makes it harder to get to him. It's kind of like tennis, you know, you can't get over there in time to even hit him. And so when you're forced to jump over him, you can get stuck into a position where you're kind of painted into a corner. And I got unlucky in the sense that he was shooting a lot of them like that, but I got lucky in the sense that I was able to deal with them regardless. Like, I think right about here. No, that's not the... There's a spot where I jump over about 3 of them at once, and here. And I shot 2 of them. That was lucky. I might have cleared them anyway, I'm not sure. But it took me a long time to just take out the set of heads on the left. And normally, I mean, you can, with the spread gun, this room is like 10 seconds. And I love spread gun, but I mean, it's just not challenging anymore. Well, I mean, I guess spread gun never... Well, you know, in the old days, Contra was still hard enough, even with a spread gun. But it's like training wheels too, just like the cheat code. The one that everybody gets wrong when they try to load it. Everybody will end it with a... You know, I'm okay with the last part when they say select start, you know, because that's for 2 players or whatever. But really, the select and the start aren't even part of the code. And it just drives me crazy that when people make up wacky, completely wrong codes and they think that they're, I don't know, some kind of a hardcore fanboy. Right here, I almost die. This could have ended it right there. That bullet. it's one of those spots where you just kind of have to roll with it. You're committed. I don't really even know what these things, like, that doesn't look fair to me that it's passing through my toe and I get to live through it, but there's no other way to do it. And I don't really know how much of a threat they actually are, because it seems like it's just perfectly timed to always destroy right at the last second. I'm sure they put a lot of work into timing that like it is too. Make it dramatic. And it does feel intense, you know, when you're not completely used to it. I don't think I have any other close calls on this stage, but I already had to start kind of going careful. You can see a lot of times when I'll not just for, I mean, I always stop for the canister grenades because they, you know, you don't want to mess up your timing. But there's a lot of spots where I stop and hesitate and stuff because I was getting rusty at the last 4 stages because I kept dying on the 4th boss every time I tried this. And this was another unlucky. Normally I can get this this UFO on 2 appearances. I can destroy it. But this is the 2nd appearance and it's already gone again. And then here's the 3rd, and it still makes another one. And it's all because of just appearing in odd places and, you know, like too close to the ground. So I don't have time enough to get in all the shots before the small saucers come after me. So that took about twice as long as I'm used to. And it's, I think I was already, yeah, I was already getting pretty nervous at this point because I had a good run up to now, and I didn't want to, like I said, being rusty, I didn't want to completely screw it up in the 11th hour here. And I think for the last couple of days on my practice attempts, this is as far as I'd gotten. I don't think I'd gotten past this energy zone. So I mean, I've got all this muscle memory built up over the decades where normally I have a pattern that it's hard for me to even break, to go like through this section with my timing and everything. But here I've got all these little moments where I hesitate, trying to take it extra careful. And that kind of makes it worse for me. Usually effortless. And right here is my biggest hang up. I don't even know why I stopped in the beginning. I guess I was just unsure, couldn't remember how I deal with this. And so I had to wait for those guys to be in a spot I liked before I could drop down. I think it's pretty much smooth sailing from there though. This boss is particularly tricky. He's not hard to beat, but he's hard to beat without dying at least once. Because of those, like, you'll see how he varies up his disc throws. Sometimes I'll shoot 1, sometimes 2 or 3. You never know, and he can catch you in the middle of those jumps. Luckily, I was kind of ready for that. Now, by this point, my palms were really wet. I was determined to make this. Here, I normally don't pause there. I was determined to make this my final run, and I showed off there even though it was a big risk to jump on top of those things, because even though I made it look totally simple, if you don't do it exactly right, it'll still kill you be on top of those. It's not pixel perfect, but it's close enough. So I'm lucky that my muscle memory kicked in there for a second and got me through there safe. Here again, I forgot how I deal with this guy, so I just had to kind of wing it there, and it looks a little awkward to me. The last time I did this challenge, I practiced the last 4 stages over and over until I was really comfortable with them. And then I started from the beginning. And this time I didn't do that, and I kind of regret it because it made this last part so much more tense for me than I'm used to. And I still can't remember, like, how many of these turret guys. I don't know why my memory is so bad about things like this. But they kind of catch me off guard, even though I know there's going to be one or more. And this part makes me nervous because I'm not used to... Like, when you do this with a spread gun, it's totally different. You just run up there and smash it in 2 seconds. And for the final stage, I was quietly, completely freaking out. And so I totally messed all this up with this. I thought this was going to end it right here with that one, the very first cocktail shrimp. I thought he was going to put an end to it all. I mean, it looked like it. He was right there on my head. And I was still freaking out about each one of these, trying to make sure they didn't catch me off guard. Seems like it takes forever with the pea shooter to blow up that head. I mean, I guess it does relative to the spread gun. But I think any of the guns would make that a lot faster. Even if I just had the rapid fire upgrade. See how I tripped on that step there? I was so nervous I was making dumb tiny goof ups. This point, my level of carefulness was becoming a detriment. I was afraid that's what was actually gonna kill me, was my nerves. Anxiety. Interference. What? See, I can't even talk now. It's making me nervous just thinking about it. I was determined to not let... I'd thought about leaving these 2 pods on the ground and just going straight for the heart, which is totally not what I usually do. I usually take out 2 or at least those 2, and sometimes one of those at the top before I go after the heart, so that I have the safest time possible. I just like to. But I was afraid that if I didn't take out at least those 2, I would screw myself over. And there's my triumph. This time with video evidence. I actually did it. 1 life. No power-ups. Can't do it with any kind of game, but Contra is my kind of game. I'm glad you are here to see it proven once and for all that it is possible. Even for a loser like me. If I can do it, you can too. Practice makes perfect.